She's been called the UK's answer to Tina Fey, Chelsea Handler, and Lena Dunham. Caitlin Moran's frank and hilarious writing has made her a major feminist voice in the UK, with bestsellers like How to Be a Woman and How to Build a Girl. In her latest book, she takes a surprising turn with What About Men? We met up with her in London to find out why she's asking that particular question. Caitlin Moran isn't shy when speaking her mind.
Everyone is having sex, everybody is taking drugs.
Even when counseling the rest of us on how to do it.
She has bad sex with a bad man at a bad time.
Confident.
And has to deal with female sexual shame, what we all live with.
Brash.
On the way,
a bit potty mouth.
Did not give a
Moran gives her hilarious take on women's course correct through the ages.
My main interest is in feminism, and if you go back and read books from the 16th and 17th century, what we thought a woman was is so different to what we know it is now.
So imagine, after 7 books on her quest to empower women, the London Times columnist found herself shifting focus to men.
Every single man I asked was like, I would never do that.
Her latest take on solving the problems of the world came directly from her live shows.
We'll talk for an hour about women and girls and feminism, and then at the end, either the second, third, or so the third question will be, okay, women and girls, but what about men?
And thus, the title of her new book.
And at first, I admit I was quite peevish in my reaction. I was like, they're fine. I don't care. Like, they will have to solve their problems themselves. And also, it would be the ultimate irony of feminism, would it not? If women had to solve all the problems of women and then solve all the problems of men.
After some consideration, she asked herself,
how could boys, this new generation of boys, be scared of women? How could they think that we were winning when any measurable indice shows that we're not still? There is still the pay gap. We are still underrepresented in politics, in sport, in economics, and in business. And the statistics are there that 1 in 4 of us will be sexually assaulted or raped. So the corporeal reality is, of course, we're not winning. But what is the only thing that women have that boys don't have and that they might be envious of? And it's feminism.
You say this is a book with a very directed target audience.
Specifically straight white men. Yeah, because people of colour, men in the LGBTQI community have run campaigns, very successful ones, talking about the specific problems of being of colour or of being gay. And first of all, I'm really aware that when you say straight white men,
yeah.
I get tense.
I do too.
Because that's usually the start of someone saying something really racist or sexist or homophobic. But if you are a straight white boy and you know that when people describe your category, that it's presumed that the conversation is suddenly going to become very problematic, then that again explains this fear and this anger that they have.
Part of the problem, she says, a lack of context.
It's all about women at the moment. So if you're a 15-year-old boy who's grown up in this recent wave of feminism, you don't have the perspective of what a recent corrective is to 10,000 years of the patriarchy. You just think, oh, boys are losing. The liberal left, the progressive left, the feminist left, we made a mistake. We forgot to include boys in the conversation about what we wanted the future to look like, and we let people like Andrew Tate step into the vacuum.
And empowering females is the easiest way to weaken the will of men.
She rails against the online influencer now charged with rape and sexual exploitation, all of which he denies, and calls him a poster boy for misogyny.
No, I'm innocent.
But she also blames the silence of quite a few good men.
And I think a lot of the problem is with the fathers. The good liberal progressive men, when this wave of feminism came along, went, it is fair enough. Let's let the ladies talk. We're just going to be quiet. We're going to let this feminism happen. We're not going to talk about men for a decade. But of course that means that no progressive liberal men have been talking about boys. They're not mentoring their young boys in the way that women of my age have been mentoring their girls so hard.
One of 8 children, Moran grew up in public housing and was mostly homeschooled. By the age of 13, she fell in love with writing.
I've got a song in my heart and an axe to grind.
She began her journalism career in music, and by 2011, penned her first bestseller.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Moran, and I have written a book called How to Be a Woman, which is all about that much neglected topic, feminism.
Which sold over 1 million copies. Then her autobiographical novel, How to Build a Girl,
I'm going to be a writer.
was made into a movie. For the better part of a decade, she's hit the road and made her livelihood through her book signings and speeches to sold-out crowds. And Moran says bringing boys into the conversation is not a diversion, but an evolution.
I see this absolutely as an extension of my feminism because, as any woman knows, half our problems are men and boys. Angry men, scared men, misogynist men, violent men. So you can't fix the girls until you fix the boys. So this, to me, this is the next necessary step of feminism.
More than a step.
Well, I hope ultimately there will be some kind of men's movement. So boys are more likely to be put on medication at school for disruptive behaviour. They're less likely to go on to further education. They're more likely to become addicted to drugs, alcohol or pornography. They're more likely to join gangs. They make up the majority of the prison population. They make up the majority of the homeless population. So that's clearly a problem with gender, and that would be the start of a men's movement, to tackle that and talk about that in the way that we've talked about all the problems of women.
An urgent problem, she says, we desperately need to fix.
The idea of a battle between the sexes is ultimately a nonsense. Like, we are all brothers and sisters together. That's what life is. We are all just brothers and sisters. It's a tiny planet and it's such a short amount of time we're alive. And I can't believe we're still having these arguments about men versus women. There is no battle between us. It's only us. We've got to get on.
She really has dedicated her life to the conversation of feminism. So this book, it will be so interesting to see on across the pond how people receive it. But she has some really interesting ideas. What did you think, Jeff?
Very interesting.
Yeah, it
said
was.
some profound things, I thought.
Yeah.
Nancy?
And it's important, I think, to include the men in the conversation.
Oh,
I thought it was
absolutely.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. It's always great to have you as part of the conversation, Jeff.
Classic. Classic.